Hello, welcome back to the studio and to the final installment of my palette building series. In the past several episodes, I guided you through choosing a practical selection of bright colors as well as muted dark and earthy tones. By now you have a functional, practical palette of between 9 and 12 colors. I'm a big fan of having fun with your palettes and really customizing them. So in this final installment, I'm going to choose some really fun colors that aren't really necessary for color mixing, but really make me happy. This is your chance to include really fun colors, like maybe you like metallics, iridescence, bright neon colors, or heavily granulating paints. In my case, I will be choosing some heavily granulating colors as well as some bright ones. I have 4 colors that I'm considering adding. I'll paint them out. I only have 3 spots left in my palette, so I'm going to have to do some shuffling later. The first color that I considered adding is something that I've been debating for months. Cobalt Teal Blue is going to be absolutely perfect for painting seascapes and underwater scenes. However, it is cobalt, it's toxic. I have some real misgivings about bringing this pigment with me when I go to the Daintree Rainforest and the Great Barrier Reef. I do really want to include it, I'll just have to be very careful, if I choose to bring it, to be really cautious about how I dispose of my paint water. Next, this is a natural earth paint, green Apatite Genuine, which has a very, very strong granulation and separation in the paint. It's not a very useful mixing color, but on its own it makes some beautiful green natural textures. It's kind of like a forest in a tube. Again, I think that this is going to be a very useful color for sketching out in nature. But the issue is that it's very close to 2 greens that I've already included on my palette. So I'm not totally sure with green Apatite Genuine whether I would use it to replace one of the greens I've already chosen, whether I'll add it and then have 4 greens on a palette of only 16 colors, or whether I'll just not include it. The next thing that I am considering is Potter's Pink, which is a pigment that I'm not very familiar with. It's a very soft, granulating pink, very unlike other colors that I've used in the past. But I can think of some applications and I'd really like to take the chance to really try it out. So I'm considering including Potter's Pink in this palette. I'd really like to if I can squeeze it in. You can see here in my paint out how Potter's Pink is this very beautiful, delicate, rosy color. It's got some very interesting granulation. I think it could be used to create some interesting earth tones as well as toning down some really punchy colors. So some interesting applications, and I'd really like to give it a chance, but I just need to squeeze it in somehow when there are so many colors that I like. The final color that I'm considering including is a color that is in every single one of my other palettes. I was really ready to leave this off, but I can't help myself. I feel like this color would work really well for some Australian landscapes, and the color I'm speaking about, of course, is Quinacridone Burnt Orange, PO48, and that's what I'm painting out right here. It's similar to a transparent red iron oxide, also known as burnt sienna from some brands, but it is a punchier orange, and it's slightly earthy, but it's still very, very bright. I find all sorts of uses for this color. I really like it on its own, and even though it's close to other things that I have included on my palette already, I still really, really want to work this in. So now I have 4 colors I'd like to add and 3 spots, so I have to either remove a color already on my palette, or I have to remove one of the colors I'd like to add. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little bit of paper dolls here with different palette arrangements. This is how I designed my kitchen, was with little cutouts. So if it's good enough for designing a kitchen, it's definitely good enough for designing a watercolor palette. And so now I'll just speed through my process for that. So right off the bat, I've already made some decisions. I am going to take Cobalt Teal. I'm just going to have to be careful about how I use it. And I am going to take Potter's Pink because I just really want to try this color. But now I'm just going to give myself some options and play around with the last 2 colors, see whether I'll include them. Although I considered a number of other options, what I went with in the end is with my gut, and I felt like I don't use my red very much, so I removed the red that I added in the last episode and instead just added the Quinacridone burnt orange, so now I have 2 oranges. I've now taken the time to arrange my palette so that it is in chromatic order and so that complementary colors are near each other. This will make mixing a lot easier. And now, this is the sketchbook that I'm taking with me to Australia. It's a handmade sketchbook by 2 critters. It is filled with hot press 100% cotton watercolor paper, so this was a bit of a splurge. And I'm gonna test out this first page by doing a quick sketch of my watercolor palette and the colors that I chose inside of it. I'm using here my black mix of Perylene green and Perylene violet to paint out the shadows and the wells. And over here on my glossy black areas of the outside of the palette, I'm using a mix of In Enthroned Blue, which I've swapped it out for a Roman Schmall Aquarius version, which is a little bit brighter. And I'm mixing that with a transparent orange to make a deeper black. I'm really sorry for the whirring noises in the background of this voiceover. I'm working with a very, very old computer, which hopefully I will replace soon, so you won't have to deal with this too much longer. And now I am painting in the colors in the order in which I painted them out in the palette. I am trying to get a range of the true wash color of these paints rather than trying to duplicate what they look like in the pan. The idea here is to be able to see what I paint out. Because I use mostly transparent colors, they do look very dark in the pan, so this actually helps. Even though it's a little less realistic, it actually helps to see what colors I'm actually carrying around at a glance. When I'm working with a new palette, I don't necessarily remember the order super well, so it's nice to have this at the beginning of a sketchbook to help me reference. Although having made this video, or this series of videos, I think I have a better idea than I usually do about what I've included in any particular palette. As I continue to paint this out, you can see how I've placed my colors so that the colors that I use for mixing are next to both their neighboring colors. So for example, orange is next to yellow and magenta, but they're also placed near their complementaries in the next row, which makes it a little bit easier to mix the colors that I mix most frequently without having to hop around all over the palette. And now unfortunately I jostled my camera out of alignment a tiny bit, and so I didn't realize, but the end of this painting is a little bit blurry and out of focus, so I'm very sorry about that. I hope you enjoyed this whole palette building series, and that this will increase your confidence in designing and building your own custom palette. I am now on my way to Australia as this video is released. I will be taking advantage of airport and possibly airplane Wi-Fi, so let me know down in the comments below what you're gonna put in your custom palettes. Love to have a discussion. I have lots of time to kill. So also don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see my videos from all of the sketching that I'm doing in Australia. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.